Hi, and welcome to the Loan Officer Team Training Podcast. Today, I have an amazing woman, an amazing loan originator, manager, just a fantastic woman all the way around in every way possible. And I'm so glad to have you here today, Jen. Jen
Thanks,
Conley from Chillicothe, Ohio. She is
ma'am.
with us today, and you'll find out how amazing she is. And you've been on
Oh,
the podcast before, but we talked
I
about
have.
different subjects. And
Uh-huh.
I just love Jen so much. So I'm so grateful that you took time today, Jen, to be here with
Oh,
us. And
it's my pleasure, darling. I mean, we've been, and more importantly, we're friends. We've been
yes,
friends for a long, long, long time. So
a
you were
long
the
time.
very first people I met before Freedom Club even existed. We met. So
Yeah. It was so fun getting to know you that first time. God, that was a long time ago.
it
So
was.
grateful for you, grateful for everything that you share. And you're here today to help loan officers just get their head on right? In a
Hopefully.
lot of ways and succeed. You know, the things that you share are things that will help loan officers succeed. So we're just going to have a conversation today, and I'm excited.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about a few things. So yeah.
Yeah. So we'll talk about a few things. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about, because this is something that Jen is so good at, is building relationships, especially with agents. And so I think a lot of agents have been through a hard time, just like loan officers have. So tell us about that, Jen. What have you seen? What is your take on it?
Well, I think that the last half of 23, maybe even just the last quarter and this first quarter of 24, they have really been feeling what we have been feeling since early 22, right? So
Yes.
it really started to hit us hard early 22. And again, I always feel like I'm chicken little with just about everything. So I kept telling like, it's coming, it's coming. And so finally, they started to feel that same thing that we have felt. And I think that we lose sight of the fact that they go through the same struggles we do. I always feel like as originators and on the mortgage side that we get hit first with everything. I feel like that, the economy hits us quicker. I feel like we're always on the front edge of that, right?
Uh-huh.
And so we see it before it really trickles down to a lot of people, title, realtors, and whoever. So I think that that's something that you need to help them navigate. And so in my office, I do a lot of consumer direct. I have for many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
And so we originate a lot of our own leads. And
Mm-hmm.
so we're able to give those pre-approved buyers to agents. And a couple of years ago, I've always tracked where my leads came from, but I wasn't tracking the conversion on the agent side. So
Okay.
I started to do that in 22, kind of gathered all the information. And I'm not much of I don't, as my grandma would say, I don't tarry about things. I always just get right to it. But with that, for some reason, I really just gathered information for most of 22. And I started seeing that we had tons of leads, tons of pre-approved buyers that were not converting. So I made a class, and in order to get those leads from us, you have to take the class. And
Mm-hmm.
we track the performance. We have different, classes and trainings and things like that with them. And so we started that early 23, which something else we'll talk about is, I had a pretty catastrophic thing, felt like it at the time. We're fine, but it felt catastrophic in 23 with the company I was at. And so I didn't follow up. I didn't have the classes I wanted to have. I didn't do all the things I wanted to do because I had all these things going on at my company. So
Okay.
at the end of 23, I was like, okay, we've moved, we've got everything going, we're in order again. So let's have a class with our agents. So we did that. And I just kind of did a little mini Freedom Club event, basically. And I really expected it. I was actually talking to Tyler Osby yesterday, and I was telling him about it. And he was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it lasted that long. I expected an hour. Like, I don't expect anybody to commit more than an hour to something, but just
Yeah.
because they have things to do. And so I scheduled an hour. I said, this is what we're going to do. Have you out of here in 60 minutes. And it ended up being 3 hours.
Wow, that is a long time.
Yeah. And it was purely because of the interaction that we got with the agents and
Yes.
their wanting of help and wanting to know how to script things and say things. And and how to navigate through what we're going through. So what we did was we did a brain dump. I love brain dumps. So, so we did a brain dump, and
Yeah,
nobody
let's talk about what a brain dump is, because a lot of people may not know what a brain dump is.
So a brain dump is where you just list everything that you've got in your head that you need to get done, personal and business. And once you get all those things out of your head, then you can focus on what we're going to do that night. So we have them in the evening. So they could focus on what they were going to do. So we gave them 10 minutes. You know, I turned my music on just like we do at the Freedom Club. And I said, okay, now make your list, personal business, everything you need to get done. I don't care what it is. Nothing's too big and nothing's too small. But that way you've got it down. You can stop thinking about it for a minute because you recorded it somewhere and you can go back to it. But that way you can give your undivided attention to what we're about to do. So we did that, which they love that. So we started with that. And I had my own little presentation. We go through our numbers and how many leads we gave out and all those things. But the most important part I found through that was I did what we always did. You know, Tammy would get up on the stage with the little, you know, the paper whiteboard.
Yes.
And we would yell out things, right? Like whatever topic that, you know, Carl had for that day. So I said, what are the 3 things that have kept you from meeting your goals this year? Whatever it is, the top 3 things. I gave them 5 minutes to make that list. And then we went around the room and each person shared one thing and we would discuss it as that person said it and what to do, maybe how to script it. And so I went over this with you before we started, but I'll tell you what those things were because I was really surprised. But one thing we also did, we wanted to make sure that we addressed the things that we thought they were going to say. So I had 3 of my staff there and I asked them, what do you think that their reasons are going to be? And so my people said the 3 things that we wanted to make sure that we addressed and how they would handle that. So we got those 3 things out of the way and they were on their list, but I thought that would be everybody's top 3 things, right? It was inventory, prices, and rates. I was positive that was going to be everybody's 3, right? You always think, you know, what people are going to say. And they did say those things, but they said not enough time for follow-up. Prices are too high, procrastination, low inventory, not enough time to focus on my business, anxiety about contacting clients. Does that sound like?
Yes.
Carl and Kevin's call reluctance, right?
Yes.
ADHD. I'm like, I don't know if I can really help you with that. If I don't do it now, I'll forget about it. So that's, you know, organization things. Not enough time in one day, preparing ourselves to fail, self-talk.
Yes.
Low inventory, but I don't want to drive that far, right? So making excuses because we're in a rural area. So sometimes we get leads from an hour away and they don't want to go that far. Not financially investing in my business the way I want to. So those were the things that were all like new things. Some of them, they would have a repetition, but those were there were 13 things that they said. And so, you know, we just started working through those and that helped me make a list of things that I can now have classes with that group on. And, you know, I don't have it here, but I've got self-talk as one.
Awesome.
A lot of CRM stuff, right? Contacting your clients. And I went through I was telling Tyler this yesterday, you know, if you buy a car and that person calls you on your birthday or calls you to wish you a happy anniversary of buying your car. Like, do you say, oh, what a jerk for calling me to wish me a happy birthday? Like I played that out with him just like Carl does, right? And so like, well, yeah, I was like, so would you say that when you hang up? Well, you know, Joe's a jerk. He called me, wish me a happy birthday. He was like, no. I said, so why would they say that about you? They're not going to say that. And we all get caught up in, you know, well, I don't want to talk, I don't want to call too much. I don't want to bug them.
Yes.
If you're somebody once every 90 days, they're not thinking about you.
They're not.
They're not. And so that is probably one of the best lessons that Carl taught me for a lot of different reasons, right? If a deal goes bad in a small town, I was like, oh, everybody knows. Carl's like, nobody's thinking about you. They're not waking up in the morning thinking about Jen Conley.
Nope.
And so like, but you feel like that. You feel like you're under this microscope and everybody's just waiting for you to fail. And they're really not. They're not. They're worried about paying their bills and feeding their kids.
Yes. And they're too busy to be thinking about what you're doing or what happened yesterday with you or any of that.
They wake up in the morning, they're like, I got to go to work. I've got to go to the grocery store. I've got to cook dinner. They're not thinking about us as much as we would like to think that they are.
To that, that's why it's such a breath of fresh air when you do call them and just let them know you're thinking about them.
Absolutely.
Just that you appreciate them. I was thinking about you. You came to mind and I appreciate you so much. Who doesn't want to hear that?
listen, okay, keep talking about Tyler here, but yesterday, Tyler called me out of the blue. Like we hadn't been texting, nothing had happened. And, Tyler is, I said, look at you being a social butterfly. He's a little bit of a recluse, but, which I am too. So, but he was like, I've just been thinking about you. I wanted to call and see how you were doing.
See?
I made me feel so good that Tyler
Yes.
thought about me and wanted to call me. And so that's how everybody's going to feel. Same thing when they get a handwritten note. Same thing when you call. Like people like to be thought of.
Yes.
And that's why we think people are thinking about us all the time, right? Because we
Yes.
like to be thought of. And
Exactly.
so it's just something that, that list really, it's all the same stuff we say in the Freedom
Hmm.
Club. It's all the same problems that we have. And
Yes.
I think that we lose, yes, their job is different, but they're still people just like us. And they
Hmm.
have the same struggles and the same things that we have. And so I think that is something that having those conversations with them. And also, I feel like that was a room full of agents from all different brokerages.
Hmm.
And I actually, again, Tyler, and this is because of the conversation we had yesterday, but
Yeah.
years ago, he was like, you should have a mastermind. I'm like, nobody's going to do that. They're all competition. They're not going to come because it's not like where it's a big city. You're from a
Right.
small town,
Oh
right?
yeah, I did all my loan business in a small community. Yes.
Yeah. And it's like, they're not going to share. They're absolutely not going to share because they don't want their competition to know. And
Hmm.
so that was a room full of all different brokerages and they got really, really vulnerable. The number two agent was in the group and he was very vulnerable in that group. He was the only man on top of being the number two agent, right?
Hmm.
And so when the people, some of them are newer agents, and when they heard him say he felt a certain way that they feel, like that builds a bond.
It does.
Again, just like the Freedom Club, right? Like to see somebody that has had success get up and they're having the same struggles, build
Yes.
bonds with people.
Hmm.
And so it was literally a little mini Freedom Club for the agents. And it was just really powerful. And they all, that we have a group text and we send each other positive things and podcasts and just all the same things that we've done. And we built that little community and they need that. They are out on an island
Yes.
just like we are. And they might be at a brokerage like that. Some of those agents are at a brokerage, the biggest one in Southern Ohio. So there's like 135, 140 agents at this brokerage, but they're out doing their own thing. None of them go to the office anymore.
Right.
They
There's
don't
no
do
togetherness like there used to. You used
no.
to be able to stop by an agent's office and see them all, especially in a
Yes.
small town. See them
Yes.
all.
Not
They're not in their
anymore.
office anymore. And
No,
we aren't either when you think
no,
about it.
no, their doors are locked if I try to drop off pop buys or whatever. Like there's
Yes.
nobody even there. So, they need that just like we do. And so I think we have to remember that and keep that at the forefront because it's a very, we fall into a us versus them mentality. I mean, I do. I think a lot of people do
Hmm.
because a lot of deals can be contentious. A lot of deals have things, especially now. I feel like, and I hear, and people tell me this all the time, like the deals are so much harder now. They're not because of the guidelines, just because a lot of the people that were, vanilla borrowers, as we say,
Hmm.
bought 20 and 21 and early 22. So the people that are now getting a shot to buy a house were the people that were getting locked out in those times.
Yes.
So they weren't cash buyers, they weren't conventional buyers. And so they got pushed out. And so now they're back in. And so sometimes they're tougher deals for us. I don't feel like ours has changed a whole lot because we've always done a lot of government deals.
Uh-huh.
But I think that we're seeing that. So we feel, that toughness too. So I think that there's always contention, right? Everybody wants to blame somebody for something. They never want it to be them. So
Hmm.
it's always somebody else's fault. It's easy to blame the lender. It's easy to blame the underwriter, title, whatever. So I think that there's a lot of that friction that happens and it's possible to make it where it's not like that and to have a group. And I'm not going to tell you that I love every agent loves me because they don't. But I've got my people and
Hmm.
that's all I need. You don't need them all.
Right. Boy, that's the most important lesson. You don't need them all.
No,
And they
I'm
don't
not
all
for
need
everybody
you
and
either.
everybody's not for me.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
and so I think it's finding the right ones and they're out
Yes.
there. You'll find
Yeah.
them
And
and
you
you got to,
create such a bond with them when you do things like that.
yes.
Back many years ago, when I was originating in our small community, in Arizona, we did what we called a secret sauce for success was the name of our class. And it was a 6-week, every week at noon at the title company. And we had different topics and they all came from the Freedom Club. It's all the stuff that we'd been talking about in the Freedom Club, self-talk and calling your past clients and all these different things. And we probably had about 10 agents that came regularly. And one of them said to me, Irene, this is you and Kevin do an amazing job training. She said, you guys need to take this on the road. Little does she know, we did take it on the road. It's powerful to build those kinds of relationships. They will never forget what you've taught them. You build this close bond when you do things like that with them. And it shows them that you care about them, that you care. It's not just a number. It's not just a client. You don't just need their business or want their business. It's more than that. And it builds strong bonds. Do you know, I retired from originating in 2016, late 2016. And do you know, up until about a year ago, we were still getting calls on Kevin's cell phone, my husband's cell phone.
I believe it.
We turned our business over to our oldest son. So he got the calls, but they called us first. And then we would turn them over to him. Up until then, just until about a year ago. So for 4 or 5 years afterwards, because we had such a strong relationship with the agents and clients, we got calls like that. But that's what building relationships is with clients and with agents. They'll never forget what you've taught them, Jen.
No, just like we haven't forgotten.
That's right.
You and Tammy have taught us. It's the same thing. And I just think it's really important to remember that people are people. Again, that's another Carl lesson, right? Because I was always like, well, I'm in a small town. It's different here. Well, I'm this, it's different here. And he's like, people are people. Humans are humans. It does not matter if they're in a big town, small town, if they're an agent or they're an LO, we are all still people. And if you take one lesson from politics, right? Like when you really sit down and talk to somebody that has a different political or religious or whatever belief it is, right?
Yes.
You find that you have far more in common with them than you have different.
Yes.
And we're all supposed to be different. We're not supposed to be the same. So, it's something that you have to remember that we all have more in common than we don't.
Yes, that's so true. And like I said, they're going to remember what they've learned and you may not even know it. It's great when they tell you, but they may not tell you. It may just be something they keep to themselves, but you've made a difference for them and you've created that bond with them. And they'll never forget it. And now it's just about the follow-up, right? Making sure that you're following up, not coaching them. That's not what it is. You're not trying to tell them what to do or how to do it, but you're providing tools that are valuable to them. Do you have a loan partner who does the loan consultations, structures the loan and converts the buyer to work with you? Or maybe you have a loan partner or a team member that you would like to move into that position so that you can be freed up to go get even more loans. How about a newer loan officer who could benefit from some training in how to convert buyers to work with them? Our client conversion training is very specific to this role. It will help them convert even more clients to work with you and your team. We help you to be seen as a trusted advisor. We cover every aspect of converting clients to work with you. They're going to learn emotional intelligence, what it is and how to utilize it. They'll discover the key to a success mindset. Yep, we go deep on this one. How to build rapport right from the first conversation. How to ask the right questions. How to answer objections. Specific dialogues and strategies to overcome rate shoppers. They're going to practice live with other class members. And they're going to also learn how to ask for and receive referrals. How to master the loan consultation with loan strategies that help the buyer make great decisions for their future. Client conversion training will set your team apart when they implement the training that they're going to receive in our class. It's a virtual interactive class on Zoom with live trainers, and your team members can attend from wherever they are as long as they have audio and video. Everyone participates. It's a 10-hour live class divided into 2.5-hour sessions from 9 to 11:30 on Thursday and Friday for 2 weeks in a row. Sign up your loan partner today at loanteamtraining.com. You'll find the class on the Client Conversion Training tab. Again,
they're the leads that we generate. And So I could kick myself a million times for not tracking them for the 10 years that I did it before I started tracking it.
Yeah.
But we have to remember that these people are families, right? They're not leads. They're not referrals. They're families.
That's
And
right.
so they trusted me to help them buy a house. When they called here, they heard me on the radio, they saw me on social media, whatever it was, they trusted me to help them.
Mhm.
And so we have to make sure that everybody is doing what they are supposed to do to get them into their house. And I also feel like, just like they're out on this island, their broker does not know who they're working with. Now, in the loan world, we're pulling credit, we're putting them in the CRM, we're doing all these things, right? So if you have a manager, your manager can look at the pipeline and say, well, what's going on with Bob? What's going on with Susie? What's going on? Agents don't have that
Right.
at all. So from this, tracking, we started where Jill in my office, she's my loan partner and office manager. She has a call every single week with everybody in the program. Where's John at? Where's Bobby at? Where's Susie at? Have you shown them a house this week? Like all of those things. So she is following up and having a meeting with them every week and going over all of the clients to make sure that it's moving forward.
That's great.
So, if you've got, maybe you're not consumer direct and so you're all referral based, it's still okay to set a call with them once a week and say, hey, let's hop on the call for 15 minutes and go over and see if I can help you get them into, a house. And maybe I'm going to help you manage their expectations because they expect to get, a $500,000 house, what it would cost now for 250, and that's not realistic. But we can
Right.
help manage those expectations when we're doing our calls with clients. And,
Yes.
and that really helps build that we're a team. And
Mhm.
we tell clients that too. We're going to push you, we're going to place you with an agent that is going to do the best for you because you're building your team. This is your team to help you get into a house.
Mhm.
And so I think that that's really important too, that if you've got leads, that you're not just calling the borrowers and checking in with them. You're calling the agents and saying, hey, have you shown them any houses this week? Can I do this for you? Can I do that for you? Do you need help talking to them about something? Whatever it is, right?
Yes.
And having that bond with them, I think that's huge. Something else we started doing in our market, again, smaller market, but anything comes on Zillow, we send out payments to everybody in the program. Hey, if you get somebody on this house, this is a general payment of
Oh.
what they're looking for. This is what it's going to be on every program.
Mhm.
And then if somebody says, I want to look at this house, and we all know that that's above the payment that they want. Okay, that's great. You can go up to that amount, but just know it's outside the payment that you said you were comfortable with. Like we're arming them with information and we're not telling, go give them payments. We're not saying that, but we're
Mhm.
saying, these payments are $1,500 and they said they wanted to spend 1,000.
Mhm.
So they can buy it, but they've got to know that. And because they don't know what payments should be on a 250,000, whatever the price point is, they don't know. They think they could buy a $500,000 house for $800
Of course.
because they're not
That's what you're
supposed
there
to.
for.
Yeah, they're not supposed to know that. They work
That's
at the
right.
hospital or they work at this office or whatever they do, and they're good at that. They're not
Mhm.
supposed to be good at what we do. That's what
That's
we're for.
right.
So I think that's really important too, is holding each other accountable, right?
Yes.
And making sure. And if you do produce leads, you have got to be tracking, you've got to be holding them accountable. And what I tell the agents is if you sent me borrowers and they never closed, you would not send me borrowers.
Right.
You just wouldn't send me any referrals. So I understand that we're in a tough time, we're low inventory, all those things. But I think that that's something that you have to make really clear with them if you are generating leads.
Mhm.
And I know that there are people who are, if nothing else, you're getting them from your past database, right? If you're not spending a dime to market, you are getting things from your past database if you're doing your calls and
Yes.
checking with them. So I think that's something really important. One other thing that I was surprised at was that they don't use they're not using their CRMs. They're not making any calls. They're not doing any of that stuff. Even
Mhm.
though the brokerages typically give it to them for free,
Right.
they don't do it. And lots of times it's, well, hey, I can help you hook you up with somebody, Richard Smith, that has VAs that they can connect you with. Like I know someone that has a VA company.
Yes.
Let's get you connected with them so you can maybe get somebody to set your CRM up for you. Like they don't get the stuff that Well, you know what? Honestly, I didn't get any of that before Freedom Club either. So I guess I just feel like I've been connected to this for so long that I just feel like everybody gets it, but they don't.
They don't.
So they're not getting anything either that we get from the things that we do.
Yes. So the tools we give them are really valuable to them, even if they never implement.
Mhm.
Just the fact that we gave them the information, it's like taking a course and you don't implement it, but you still got something out of it. But the
And I
thing
think
is,
too,
holding them accountable.
yes, and I think too, part of what we need to do is reality, right? Keeping people rooted in reality. So one thing that I did also in this class, I do a radio show with a broker,
Mhm.
and we've been doing it since 2016, so 8 years. And on the very first show, there was a clip of Mark saying we had low inventory. I think it was March of 2016. He
Mhm.
said that. So I had the DJ that does the show with us send me that clip and I played it. And I said, so when do you think Mark said this on the show? And they all guessed 20, 22, 21, 22, or 23. Oh, they
Uh-huh.
all guessed that. I said that was from 2016. We've been saying there's not enough inventory since 2016. And I said, and everyone in this room has had their best year in this industry since 2016. Everybody
Mhm.
has had their best year, including me. You've had your best year. You've made the most money you've ever made since 2016. But yet we've been saying there was low inventory since 2016.
Hmm.
So then I took the numbers of what we were at the end of December and then for 23 and the end of December in 22. And there was 100 less houses. 100. And I said, I know it feels like there is a whole lot less.
Mhm.
The reality of it is there's only 100 less in
Mhm.
four counties. So that's not that many houses.
Right.
It's not that many houses.
Yep.
And so we can't let our emotions get in the way
Yes.
of facts. And so I think and it's easy to get that information, right? So if you can get that, have a broker run the reports for you, which is what I did. I had the guy that does a radio show with me pull me all the stats. And I said, this is the reality of it. And we have to stay rooted in reality. We cannot let our emotions take over what we think is true.
Yes.
Whenever you get upset about something, if you look at the reality, the facts, instead of what it feels like, you're almost always wrong
That's
when
the
you look at
truth.
at the data of it. And so, years ago when we switched companies, oh gosh, 11, 12 years ago, I was at that company a long time, but we switched and I had agents like, oh, this deal's bad, that deal's bad. And I had a processor. I'm like, what's going on? All these deals are bad. This company's terrible, blah, blah. And he said, well, what deals are you talking about? It was two. And he said, they're 203Ks. We can't get the stuff from the contractors. Everything else is fine. But
Mhm.
you pay attention to the loud squeaky wheel, right?
Yes.
And so the loud squeaky wheel is the media saying don't buy a house because the rates are too high. It's the media saying there's not enough houses to buy. It's media saying it's not a good time. And
Right.
so, and then somebody throws up a candlestick chart of the rates and like stop, just stop.
Yes.
Look at the reality. What is the data? Look at the data. And when you look at the data, it's almost always it disproves what you're feeling.
Yes. The
Now,
numbers
is it
they don't lie.
lie?
The
No,
numbers don't lie.
no. Now, are we different from 21? Absolutely. Will 21 ever happen again? Not in my lifetime.
Mhm.
I mean, that's just not going to happen. That was a fluke. It was a once in a lifetime thing. And it honestly should have never happened.
Right.
And
I
I feel like
agree.
we're here right now because 21 should have never happened. Now,
Mhm.
listen, I'm glad I made the money I made and I'm glad I did what I did, but that will never happen again in my career. I
But
mean,
make good things happen though.
yes, absolutely. But
Yes.
you can't, when I was talking to loan officers in 20 and 21, they're like, well, I've done this,
Yes.
I've done that. What'd you do in 2019? Because
Yeah,
I don't care. I don't care what anybody did in 20 and 21.
exactly.
Could care less.
Yeah.
So, because that was not real. So don't compare yourself to 20, 21, or, even if you had a good year, 22, like don't compare yourself to that because that was a fluke, in my opinion. So,
But and so what you do is you compare yourself to what you did last month or
yes,
6 months ago. Where are
yes,
you now compared to
yes.
where you were then? And,
Mhm.
and it took the longest time, Jen, as a coach, it took the longest time to try to get people to stop thinking about 20 and 21 and compare themselves to that. It was the thing that I dealt with the most as a coach with
Yes.
mindset, not
Mhm.
thinking about those times, but just compare yourself to yourself now,
Yes.
last month, the month before that, the 3 months before that.
Well, think about it. Do you want your partner doing that?
No.
Do you want your spouse or your partner saying, well, 2 years ago you did this and that? I mean, nobody wants that. You
No,
don't want anyone else to do that to you, so don't do it to yourself.
exactly.
And you don't, I mean, hopefully you don't want to do that to anybody else either.
Yeah.
You know, don't do something to yourself that you wouldn't want done to you, because
Yes.
it's far more dangerous to do that to yourself than for someone else to do it to you. Not that it's not dangerous for other people to speak badly to you, because it is, but it's far more detrimental to you for you to say things to yourself versus somebody else say them, I think.
Boy, that's the truth. You can sabotage so many success stories that you would have had had
Yes.
you not sabotaged yourself with the things that you're saying to yourself. And I love that you mentioned that it is not reality, it's just how we feel.
Mhm.
How we feel about things is not reality most of the time,
No.
especially when it's a negative emotion,
Mhm.
especially when it's negative and we're thinking, "Oh, it's just, it feels like it's ugly in the middle, right? It's messy in the middle when you're working
Yes.
on a project or you're working on things. We just have to say, you know what? Today's a new day and we're going to make it happen."
Yeah, absolutely. And you
Yeah.
have to, it's very, I have gotten, as I've gotten older, better at that, right? Like, not, I don't care. It sounds really bad to say. I probably shouldn't say it recorded, but I don't care how things feel. I don't care about your emotions about it. What are the facts of it? I can't fix your emotions. I
Yes.
can't, because those are yours. They're yours to fix. So I can't make you feel a certain way about anything, because
Mhm.
you're going to take whatever you see and you're going to make those emotions and those judgments yourself. So what is the reality of what happened? What are the numbers? What are, whatever the data is? I can only fix something based in the data. I
Mhm.
can't do anything with your emotions. That's something that you're going to have to deal with. So
Yes.
what you've got to remember, like, you cannot now, and you can fix your emotions for sure, but you have to do that. That's
Right.
not something that your boss can do, your manager can do, a realtor can do, and nobody can do that but you.
That's right.
So if you're a manager, you have to deal in facts and data, period,
Yes.
period.
And that's why there is self-talk out
Mhm.
there. There's different ways that you can learn to deal with your emotions,
Yes,
but it's not something anybody can do for you. It's something you have to do yourself. So,
yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
those are some great ideas of things to do with agents. Sometimes we've been in the business for so long, Jen, that sometimes we've done things that we forgot we did that were so
Mhm.
successful, right? So
Yes,
everybody needs to get
absolutely.
their pen and paper out and write down when you're done listening to this podcast, or talk it into your notes on your phone and
Mhm.
say, these are things that I've done that have worked really well working with realtors. And then
Mhm.
just say what they are or write them down, because you forget more things than you remember that were
Yes.
successful and worked.
And I'll tell you something else I do is I put every single thing I do into my calendar. I don't care how little it is. And then I can go back and look at what I did 5 years ago.
Yes.
I mean, if I get a monitor based alert, I go to my calendar and I put that person's name in to
Uh-huh.
see if it's somebody we've recently talked to or it's a past client, because I don't do the loans anymore. So
Right.
I don't always know. But if I get an alert, I'm like, okay, well, we talked to him last month. Oh, well, what happened here? Or, oh, okay, it's 6 years ago. Then we
Mhm.
need to go and contact him, whatever. But like, that, your calendar is your diary. It's my diary anyway. So
Yes.
I put, and I got that from, gosh, Rachel Hollis. I think it was a podcast. She said she puts everything in there. And at the end of the year, she looks at it and is like, okay, so I did this. Did it, was it productive? Did it make me money? Or, whatever the goal of that thing was.
Hmm.
So I think that's really important to, if you're not using your calendar, do that. And if you do use your calendar, go back prior to 20 and what was I doing? Who was I meeting with? What was the kind of events was I having? Go back to your calendar and see what you did and do it again.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. And keeping track in your CRM as well, like
Yes.
notes about things and people in your CRM so
Yeah.
that you can access it anytime you want to.
For
Those
sure.
are great tips, Jen. I really appreciate you being here with us today. I'd love to have you on again and talk about a different subject,
Okay.
several different subjects actually, but you have so much wisdom and experience and the ability that you have of having great relationships with people. I know because I've seen you in action. I've known what you've done in your community, but I know what you've done in our coaching community as well. And you've been amazing. So it's been an honor to have you on today and being able to share the ideas that you've shared. So loan officers that are listening, make sure that you implement at least one thing that Jen talked about today, because it's so important. That it's not very often that agents get together with other agents and talk about those deep things that you talked about, and they're vulnerable like that. It's a great thing when that happens. So
Right.
take that, loan officers, and implement
For
some of that. Implement at least one thing. And you know what? Reach out to us and let us know you did it. Reach out to me and let me know you did it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be really
Yeah.
great. Yeah, because it's great to get information. It's great to get ideas, but I'm all about implementing them, not just hearing about them, but taking them, and not all at once. She gave us probably 6 different things. You probably gave us at least 6 things today that people could implement. Just take one. Just take one and implement that one and make your list. And then when you're done with the one, then implement the second one. But it doesn't all have to be at once, or else we won't do anything. And, you mentioned ADHD, you said you couldn't help with that. And, I mean, there are people that legitimately have ADD or ADHD, and that's nothing to joke about. But there are people that I've heard so many loan officers say to me, yeah, my ADD, and they've never been diagnosed with ADD, but it's just because we're running in so many different directions, and it feels like we have once again, those feelings, right? It feels like ADD. Well, we don't really know what it's like unless it's a true thing that we have, but it feels that way. So don't let that stop you.
And even for that, because I made my list of classes, right? Time blocking. Is it Pareto's principle? Is that the one that's
Pareto's principle?
Pareto's principle? Yeah. So I got all the information for that, teach a class about that. Like that was my answer for ADD, right? So I'm going to do a class and teach them about that, time blocking. So I was going to try to help them with it. I just can't get them medication, but there are things that you can do to try to help focus yourself.
Yes.
And so those are, I had classes for every single thing on that list that they said that I could teach them.
That is so great. That's so great. So loan officers, implement what you heard today. Jen is amazing. She has so many amazing things to share with us. So I'll have you back on and we'll talk about different subjects, but I appreciate you being here today, Jen. You're amazing.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much.
fun.
I love you so much.
I love you so much. And it's so great talking with you and hearing all these ideas. There's so much a part of me that says, oh, it would be so fun to get back into the mortgage business, doing it myself. But no, I'd rather coach and train instead. It's just been fun. So thank you for being here today.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thank you for being with us today. It was so great having Jen on. And if you got value out of this, I would really appreciate if you would share it with other loan officers that you know. The more people that find out about the podcast, the more great people we can bring on. And so I really appreciate you being here. Enjoy your day.